Dear colleagues, now I want to invite Dr. Georg Melikian, founder and director of the Armenian Institute for Resilience and Statecraft. Please, Dr. Melikian.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Sahakian. Thank you for this great opportunity to be here and to share my views about, as I think, an interesting topic, which is the cognitive warfare. Oh, I think we should be here. Okay. And yeah, it's very challenging and even compelling to be before this distinguished audience, especially when there are many students. So I welcome all of my students and all those who I am familiar with, and thank you, Dr. Sahakian, for also not only providing this platform, but also trying to bridge new people. And thank you very much. So our brain is and will be the main battlefield in the 21st century in the context of the strategic competition between power centers, in other words, between superpowers, and also between local or small or medium powers. We are facing now global challenges in the world. During our previous presentations, our speakers were talking about the new multipolarity 2.0, or a new world order, which is underway of being shaped. And whatever is the consequences of this transformation, the warfare in general is unfortunately still not over. After the World War II, and especially after the Cold War, we had hopes that the war will be something as a word that would be vanished from our literature, and liberal peace will be established. But unfortunately, we don't see that. And we see that even more wars are underway, and those wars are becoming invisible, and those wars are becoming even more challenging for us to counter. In general, I'm an IR student, IR scholar, focused on military alliances, theories of international relations, security studies, regional conflict management. But 5 years ago, I started to study non-kinetic ways of warfare, and also especially in the context of the Armenia-Azerbaijan conflict, and mainly after the 2020 brutal war launched by Azerbaijan against the peaceful population of Nagorno-Karabakh, which was not only accompanied by kinetic warfare and tools, but also by non-kinetic warfare, non-kinetic tools and instruments. In other words, I started to study hybrid warfare. And thank you to Dr. DNC, who mentioned about hybrid warfare, and also other speakers previously, yesterday and this morning, talking about strategic competition, big data, privacy, cybersecurity, and hegemonic multipolarity, strategic competition, strategic narratives. These are all part of hybrid warfare. So let's start from the beginning. Let's talk about the hybrid warfare, and then we will go to cognitive warfare, which is part of the hybrid warfare. My presentation will have 4 parts. First, I will be focused on the concept of peace and war, which is important for any IR scholar. Then I will be focused on the definition, short definition, goals and targets of the hybrid warfare. Then I will talk about the cognitive warfare per se and neuroweapons. And then I will come up with 6 policy recommendations for not only Armenia, but for many other governments who are facing this issue. The problem with the war is that in the 21st century, as I mentioned, we could hope that we are like people getting more civilization and becoming more modernized, maybe will not resort to war to solve their problems. A problem or a conflict is a common thing. We can all have problems. We can all have differences in our perceptions and understandings. But when the conflict or the competition become a war, there we have a big problem. So it's not something new. The international relation was mostly focused on the concept of war and peace. So we can see that, the bad news is that we have 65 types of war identified so far, but only one type of peace. And, and the scholar research and academia is more focused, unfortunately. It's not because of their fault, but because we have more wars and we are more focused on warfare rather than on peace. But it's because we have what we call this tiny line between war and peace, because we don't know when the war now ends and when the peace starts. Basically, we're talking about a situation, an environment, a security environment, when the war, as it was before, never stops, but it takes different types, different transformations, different images. That's why now the world is becoming more and more dangerous, because you never understand when the danger comes from. I mean, we do understand, but it's very difficult to counter. So that's why why I'm talking about this, just to bring this information, this knowledge, and to think all together how we have to counter these new perspectives of new wars. You can see that the competition, if we use this graphic, we can see that we have three dimensions of interactions between nations. First, we have the cooperation. It's the great thing. We cooperate, everything is fine. Like, for example, Armenia is trying to bring a perspective for peace, offering this so-called Crossroad of Peace initiative, which is basically here, like on the first level. If we cooperate, everything will be fine. If we have communication and the roads open, everything will be okay. And we will raise the cost of war and lower the cost of peace, which is basically the first level. But unfortunately, not all nations and states agree on that, for many reasons. And they not only cooperate, but also compete in different things. We all talked about that. Now we have this competition between China and the US, between many other countries, as well as Armenia and Azerbaijan, for example, if we're talking about our local issues. So, but this competition is still okay because it's below the threshold of the war. But we have a problem when it becomes an armed conflict, when they clash, when they kill each other, and it becomes a bloody war, bloody conflict, not just a conflict of interest, but a bloody conflict. And then we don't know how to stop it. Like, for example, in the case of Ukraine, in the case of Armenia as well, we don't know what are the perspectives of peace between Armenia and Azerbaijan. It's still an ongoing process. So we have to be very careful not to allow all those conflicts become an armed conflict. Still, even if it's not an armed conflict is about kinetic warfare. Kinetic meaning the physical warfare. When people kill each other, they are using bombs, they are using jets, they are using ships, they are using everything that you know about, like soldiers, military, okay? But then we have, especially after with the globalization and the interconnectedness and all kind of, interoperability and all things that are coming together, and we don't know where are the lines, where are the borders, and we have the gray zones. Gray zones meaning that it transcends all three levels and becomes a dominant dimension in warfare, meaning that every day we are basically in a gray zone, starting from cybersecurity or cyber warfare, going to informational warfare, psychological warfare, economic, and many others. So why is that? Because nations trying to gain control over another nation, they understand now that maybe it's better to use non-kinetic warfare, non-kinetic means, than kinetic means, because first of all, it's visible. When you kill someone or you trigger war, it's visible. When it's not visible, then you don't have any responsibility of that. So that's why now nations are trying to go invisible rather than stay visible. Okay, so that's why we are facing this kind of difficulties, because we don't see mostly. Some of times we see it, but this is the problem: how to detect them, how to counter them. Let's talk about hybrid wars. I'm sure that you know about that. I mean, you heard about that, but there are some confusions about hybrid warfare. Not because people don't know about them, but because mostly, for example, in the Armenian reality, when people talk about hybrid warfares, they mean mostly information war. They mean media literacy, they mean critical thinking, which are important things, but this is just only one small part of hybrid warfare. It's even larger, it's very big. Let's see how they are. I mean, hybrid warfare is a contemporary form of warfare that integrates conventional military tactics with non-conventional military tactics. And over time, they expanded their scope. And now they basically use all kinds of malign strategies that can undermine the adversary's strengths using their vulnerabilities. So hybrid warfare is against vulnerabilities of states, and they are many. For example, when we had COVID-19, it showcased how vulnerable is the healthcare system across almost all countries, even the most developed countries. So not talking about the cybersecurity, not talking about informational warfare, psychological, and many others that people are not even aware of. So that's why we call this, I mean, the terms that are used in literature, they are different, but I mean, for us to understand what we mean by saying hybrid warfare, you can meet different kind of words and terms like non-conventional, asymmetrical, irregular, non-kinetic, non-linear, surrogate, it's my favorite one, unlimited, and invisible. And it's invisible, okay? It's disguised, so you cannot see that. What are goals of hybrid warfare? There are many. I just mentioning a couple of them, or 6 of them. It's complete or partial disintegration of a state. Yeah, it's like a kinetic warfare, but without using any weapons. You want to disintegrate another country. I mean, those who are aware of Azerbaijan, I mean, I can't talk about Russia, but this time I want to talk about Azerbaijan, not Russia. Azerbaijan is using a wide range of hybrid warfare, hybrid tactics, and tools against Armenia. And one of the aims of those strategies is to make in a way that Armenia becomes a failed state. Basically, you don't kill people, you don't attack with your tanks and jets, but you do a big harm to a country that you don't like. So they will attack vulnerable state institutions with low resilience. Resilience, it's a very buzzword nowadays, you know, resilience, which means what is the level of resistance of the country, of the nation, of the institutions, of state and non-state structures. If the resilience is very low, meaning that you are not aware of dangers or risks and challenges, you cannot counteract them. And that's why now we are working on them to build resilience, to make in a way that the Armenian society, for example, starting from education, going through media literacy, critical thinking, information, and other fields, be aware and to be ready for this new reality, which we call gray zone, meaning that there are no colors, but the war is still ongoing process. You can feel all the time. So they also will want to make in a way that you change your foreign policy or policies in general. For example, you can remember that a couple of months ago, Armenian side was struggling with Azerbaijan over a small factory, you know, on the border, and that Azerbaijan is making a very big pressure on Armenian government to close the factory, which is inside of Armenian territory, but Azerbaijan was not happy with that. So what Armenia did, it surrendered, meaning that it changed its policy, meaning that Azerbaijan use of hybrid tactics worked out. It's a bad news. So it wants to have chaos, submission, and surrender. Okay, so this is all about hybrid warfare. The main targets of hybrid warfare are mostly whatever you know. It's all about military power, first of all, economic power, political, diplomatic, information and data you talked about, financial market, media. I can stop on all of them, like, separately, but we don't have time. So just remember all that. I mean, just take notes about all these fields that are target of any hybrid warfare. Basically, we can see that everything is here. But the new thing is now added to that is the brain. Oh, sorry. Okay. So then we have what is the cognitive warfare? What is the weaponization of brain science? Let's see. When we talk about the cognitive warfare, we have to bear in the mind that the target is the human mind, human brain. We want to have control over that mind. We have to make in a way that it thinks in a way we want to think. We want to gain control over their minds and to influence them in whatever way we can, starting from drugs, toxins, and also going to psychological, ideological stuff. So that's why the cognitive warfare, it includes psychology, social engineering, neurobiology, neurochemistry, linguistics, logic, and many other methods and tactics that can be used to have a psychological and other types of influence over our minds. So the main target of cognitive warfare, the human capital, human mind, as I said already. So every one of us is a target now. It's not just a state, but every one of us using a technology is a target, okay? So that's why we have two levels, individual level and societal or institutional level. So on the individual level, neuroweapons or weapons that are used against the brain can be kinetic or non-kinetic. There are many techniques, technology methods used to achieve any goal. And the main objective is to alter individuals' attitudes, beliefs, thoughts, emotions, behavior, psychological health, perceptions, feelings, everything. Now, for example, we are talking about the identity crisis in Armenia. Well, not many of us, maybe, but some scholars are talking about that, how Azerbaijan is trying to take us from our history and give us a new kind of background, saying, we are all newcomers. All those lands have been always under Azerbaijani control. Armenians are just part of Albanian church. Armenians have never had any culture, any history. And the problem is not that they are doing that. Let's say it's normal because it's war, but that people here are buying these ideas. And I heard from many Armenians that they say, now they are hesitating. They have some doubts. Maybe they are right, they say. Okay, like let's face our history. Let's be fair with our history. Okay, great. So neuroweapons can be chemical, nerve gas, pharmaceutical, stimulants, as well as a lot of psychological tools. Yeah, I'm done. And on the societal level as well, it's against all kinds of institutions that are part of the structure that we call state or nation. This is the biases. We have about 190 biases that can be used as a weapon, because biases, and when we don't think in a way that we should, so the adversary can use all of them against us. And you can see the map of the cognitive warfare in general. As you can see, it's a sort of like a big universe with galaxies, black holes, and all kind of stuff. So it's very big domain. So if we go through all of them, it will take us hours and hours. I'm just, just trying to give you general information. And well, I will, only 1 minute, I will not read all that stuff, but 6 policy recommendations to enhance. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. So Neuroshields, what we call the Neuroshields, and how to get ready for neuro attacks. Legal aspects, it's very important. Anna Parzan knows about that, how we need a new frame of legal frame to counter all kinds of information flows and the information that we cannot control probably on Facebook, on Twitter, on other places, and kind of hate speech and propaganda and conspiracies and fake news and deep fake and many other things. We should invest in cybersecurity and information integrity. It's very important to go through educational and media literacy initiatives, as well as strategic communication and counter narratives. I didn't have time to talk about narratives, which are also one of the most important parts of the cognitive warfare, and of course, resilience building in state and non-state institutions, as well as international cooperation alliances, like also with China, although China is always accused for being a trigger for cognitive warfare against other countries, but still it doesn't matter. When they have an experience, we can share, we can get some knowledge from them as well. So I will stop